Welcome to our podcast, The World According to Lisa.
And Jim, too, sometimes.
Today's Today's podcast is a pop quiz about pop culture.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get all those pop.
Yeah, pop it in there. Listen, we want to talk about how pop culture influences a lot of stuff, specifically Lisa's new novel, The Brooklyn Witch, The Battle for Brooklyn, which is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo.
If you go to the website, thebrooklynwitch.com, you could find it all out.
Yes, please buy it. Don't be cheap.
Nice, Jim. So we're doing this cultural callback with lines from TV, film, books. We were having fun going over it. So
You ever notice when you're watching a show and they quote a line from a TV show or a movie and you say, oh, I know that, and you get the reference, and you can pack a lot of punch with a cultural reference that people immediately know what it's all about.
Well, some of them, like winter is coming.
Right.
Everyone knows that from Game of Thrones.
Right.
And they use it as a joke. They've used it on Weather Channel. I mean, it's something that's been used over and over and over. But I like the ones that you don't see. And it's not so recognizable. You have to catch it.
Right. And when Lisa was writing a book, she had to make a decision, and we discussed it. And the question is, do you lay it out and explain it, or you just do it? And my position was, and we both agreed, you just do it. And if people get it, they get it. If they don't get it, they don't get it. That's fine.
And sometimes it's still funny, even if they don't know where it came from.
In the context of the discussion, it's interesting and fun. And if they don't get it, a lot of times what people do is they'll say, oh, that sounds familiar. I don't remember what that's all about.
I know. So right now I have like a million papers in front of me because I want to remember all my lines.
It's scattered all over the table like Lisa's brain.
So I'm like, this is my brain on drugs.
Pretty much.
You know, you see the egg in the frying pan, right? You've all seen that commercial.
Right. Well, what we're talking about is the fact that people of our generation, and of a lot of generations, in fact, even more so for the young kids probably that has YouTube and TikTok and all that nonsense, we need and see a lot of
memes, right? A lot of them go back
memes
to
or whatever, go back to TV shows or whatever. But we came home from school and we turned on the TV and we watched the $1 Million Movie, or we watched Abbott and Costello, or the Three Stooges, or whatever it was that we watched.
Bugs Bunny.
Right, or the old sitcoms that they were replaying, and all of that becomes a cultural touchstone. Lisa and I quote lines from The Odd Couple all the time.
Yes. Owa tagu sayam.
So we love to quote those back and forth to each other when we just laugh. Now, one of the funny things about quoting,
and you could use them in life.
Right.
That's the best part.
Exactly.
When you're like, drop the glove, Oscar.
Yes.
I won't say why, but you'll know.
Yes, it's
Don't say why.
Yeah, well, it's politically incorrect these days, so we might get canceled from the Oceanside Library if we say it. So we have to be very careful.
I don't mean it in any bad way at all. It's just funny.
Well, most of the
I love The Odd Couple.
Most of the things you get canceled for are funny, but they don't
all
like
right,
it.
Moving on.
Yeah. So
we're watching Red Monkey.
It's Bad Monkey, but that's okay.
Okay. That's right. It's Bad Monkey.
Yes. Red Monkey is the one with Patrick Swayze when he goes with his friends into the forest to save the monkeys.
But what we're talking about is how they use it on the TV show.
In context.
In context.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to say. How I reference things in The Brooklyn Witch that you get it, you don't get it. But if you do get it, it's funny.
Right.
Now, when they started, I'm going to keep saying Red Monkey because I can't remember Bad Monkey. They used it from Tombstone. That was their opening little banter back and forth between the two characters. I think it was Yancey and Riglio or something.
Rigoberto or whatever his
name was, his partner. There was that banter, and
that's not Tony Banter from Taxi. It's a different kind of banter.
And they weren't like quoting for drama. They were using it to just casually mean like, I got you, I'm your guy, I can handle it, right? I'm your Huckleberry. They did the whole thing.
The famous quote from Tombstone where Val Kilmer, rest in peace, played Doc Holliday, one of my favorite characters, who I have a book in process right now, Doc Holliday Must Die.
That's right.
Which is going to come out sometime this decade.
We'll be working. This summer we have a lot of stuff to do. Yes. But they don't explain that line.
No need to.
They don't. They assume the audience recognizes it,
and it
just builds character.
They also did it on the Pit, the doctor show. they call the one guy the Huckleberry
Yes.
because he's the earnest farm boy.
Right.
And you could be my Huckleberry, the nasty.
So you get it or you don't get it.
Right. And that's important when you do in cultural references. You just lay it out there.
I mean, that's really how people speak in real life. They
mean-
borrow lines from movies and TV
Right.
shows as like the shared language.
I do it all the time. Unfortunately, 99% of the time I have to explain what I'm talking about, but what are you going to do?
I know. It's not funny when no one gets it.
Well, that's
I mean, you could joke on the inside.
well, that's right. Well,
you
that's
could laugh on the inside.
That's where we differ because Lisa is a performer, so she likes to get feedback. I just enjoy saying something really funny, and I laugh to myself, and I don't care if anybody gets it. It's fine with me. Because I ain't your Huckleberry, all right?
No, you're not.
So what happens is we were looking at the book, and we put in a lot of different references, and not just lines, but also cultural touchstones and people that we know, like Michael Jackson or someone like Michael Jackson makes an appearance. We talked about how the Monticello is like Lisa says Froggy from Courageous Cat, but it was really based on Edward G. Robinson, who was the original reference.
Right.
So sometimes things actually go through.
And the Michael Jackson in the book, who we don't call Michael Jackson,
No.
we just said he looks like.
Well,
he's acting like Michael.
Yeah, he
Jackson.
moonwalks, he does
And
things,
he moonwalks
and you know
across the
exactly
stage,
who it is.
And she's like, "Do I have to do that too?" Which is just reminds me of what was it in Young Frankenstein,
Right.
when he says, "Walk this way, Igor," and then he walks like a back and forth like crazy.
Right.
I mean, I did that working on Wall Street, dressed up with high heels. I didn't care. It was funny.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, you quote.
You quote things when it just worked perfectly to use that line at that point. I thought it was funny. My boss didn't, but I thought it was funny, and so did the guy from J.P. Morgan.
Right. One of the weird things about it too is sometimes we remember the line different than how it was actually said.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go back into the movie, and like I make a big production about quoting certain lines, and then people, if they actually go into the movie, it's not exactly the way I said it, but it's much more fun. For instance, one of my favorites is in The Godfather Part 2. When Frankie Four Eyes goes to the baptism in Las Vegas, he sees Fredo, and he says, Fredo, what's going on? I come here, I want something to eat. And this guy comes over and says, can of peas. I don't want a can of peas. I want a sausage. I want a meatball. What's a can of peas? So whenever we go out to eat, I do that all the time. The waiter never gets it. He just grimly smiles and walks away and probably spits in my can of peas. But then whatever, But, I love that line from The Godfather. Now, most of my lines, 90% of the time, Lisa's come from comedies like Caddyshack or Airplane. Mine's come from mafia movies or The Sopranos.
Right. So I have like Young Frankenstein. So when you were saying like to clarify that line is not always what it was from the movie. Everyone jokes around and says, put the candlestick back. Right? But it's not candlestick. It's put the candle back.
Or we say put the lotion in the basket from Silence of the Lambs. That's always a good one. I always say that when we're in here at Oceanside Library, when we're working in the Discovery Lab, and they're doing some sort of project, some sort of creation, whatever. What do they call that thing? Crafting? Yes, crafting. There's some sort of crafting, and they say, "What do I do with that?" I say, "Put the lotion in the basket," and nobody gets it, but it's very funny to me.
Now, I mean, put it this way: one of my friends named their dog Abby Normal.
Right.
Because they just loved it. It was like, oh, Abby Normal. That's
Right.
the dog's name.
From Young Frankenstein.
Yes.
Right. I mean,
There's so many great lines from that.
now
that you could use.
Here's the thing. One of the issues that you have when you're doing a book or doing anything, a TV show, whatever, when you do these references, you tend to do it on cultural touchstones that you remember,
Yes.
and things that is something that immediately the people of your generation you're going to pick up on. What we had to decide was the references and the quotes and the jokes that Speranza made has to be within her time frame, within her life, but it also has to be accessible to other people. Now, with the profusion of the internet and YouTube and all of that stuff.
Right. She wasn't going to say it's the bee's knees.
Right. She's not going to dance to Charleston, in other words,
She's going to make jokes from her timeline.
Right. So
And she's 58 in the book.
Right. But, basically we went heavy on the 80s, and everything now is a lot of shows really are heavy on the 80s. So when they have a soundtrack, it's all great 80s songs,
I know, isn't that wonderful?
or they
I love it.
What's amusing to me, when I was a kid coming up, everything was, when we said we listen to the oldies, we listen to the 50s, which has great music, doo-wop and all that kind of stuff. But that was, oldies. Now it's oldies. It's like Led Zeppelin and, the Beatles, and, those are the oldies. The kids say, oh, those are the oldies, Oh, really? Or the 80s, New Order and The Cure and all that's the
And a lot of
Talking
the
Heads.
kids now say the lines. Like, that's what she said.
Right.
But they don't know where it came from.
Right.
So that came from The Office. They
Right.
popularized it.
Right. And we do this to us all the time. I love to quote, the line I quote the most is when we dealing with idiots, and we deal with idiots a lot. It's pretty much all the time. And then Lisa said, what should we do? And I always say to her, did we learn nothing from Richie Aprile?
Yes, he does use that line a lot.
A lot.
A lot.
Just the other day when Lisa's mom did something, I said, did we learn nothing from Richie Aprile? Just give her a sandwich and forget it.
True.
So
But there's a big one right now, and we heard it last night when we've been rewatching Ted Lasso.
Well, not rewatching. It's the first time we saw it.
Excuse me. We've been watching Ted Lasso. If you haven't watched it, we're only on season 2. If you haven't watched it, you have to. If you love references, you'll love this show.
Well, the guy that wrote it, Bill Lawrence, is a very talented guy.
He does a lot of great shows. We happen to like all of his shows.
Right. Well, I don't know if we like all of his shows because I don't know all of his shows, but the ones we've seen, we like.
Right.
Right. So he did Bad Monkey. He did
Wait,
Shrinking.
Is it Red Monkey or Bad
It's Bad Monkey.
All
Red
right.
Monkey's the Patrick Swayze movie. So we like Bad Monkey. We liked Rooster, the new one that just came out with the guy from The Office.
Shrinking.
Shrinking is a lot of fun with Harrison Ford. And he throws in all these cultural references. Just having Harrison Ford in it is a cultural reference in and of itself.
Correct. And he does say something that's like a Star Wars thing.
Right. So it's pretty funny when you look at something and you say, wow, that just using that actor or that situation is really referencing another film.
But Ted Lasso said he took the line that we all know, I'm also just a girl standing in front of a boy asking him to love her. We know this is from Notting Hill. That's the exact line. How many ways have you heard that line being used? I'm just a girl standing in front of a salad, wishing it was a bagel. You know, he used it last night. I'm just your coach standing in front of a boy. Like he did the line, and I was hysterical laughing.
Yeah, what's really funny when the show came on and there was a line like that, Lisa would jump out of a chair and go, I know that.
Well, there was a line that he used in the Ted Lasso where Danny Rojas is a soccer player. And he was talking him. There was a whole thing that happened with this one character. And he's talking to him and he says, be the ball, Danny. And I started laughing hysterical because I know that's from Caddyshack. But
Right.
he just inserted it so quietly that if you got it, you got it. If you didn't, he was just telling him to be the ball.
And that wasn't the most fun reference in that particular segment.
No, but
because
in that episode, the one that really killed me is when someone said, I'm going to call HR.
Right.
And he said, you tell Mr. Puffin stuff. I said hello.
Right. But that was really funny, but that wasn't the thing that I enjoyed the most. I enjoyed the most when they were talking about the yips.
Wait, no, he added something. Yes. He added something at the end of that. And he said, and you won't get it unless you, that's a joke for people born in the early to mid 70s. Like he actually said that out loud.
Right. So it
Because
also
they were just looking at him like, who's Mr. Puffin stuff?
it all depends on your frame of reference, like the frame of reference of things that you know about. So it's a sports show. So what he was talking about the yips. The yips is when you can't do an event or something that like throwing the ball back to the pitcher. The catcher can't throw back to the pitcher. That happens sometimes. Mentally, he just can't do it, or they can't throw the ball. So he mentioned Chuck Knobloch, a second baseman for the Yankees, and that was a very famous thing that he couldn't throw the ball to first base. It was ridiculous. But now 99% of people probably don't know who Chuck Knobloch is, and they threw that in the middle. They said, "Oh, Chuck Knobloch, very good. I like that." You know, there was a catcher at the Yankees or the Mets, I forget which, that I forget his name. He couldn't throw the ball back to the pitcher. He just would walk up and hand it to him and then walk back, which made the game another, hour or two, which was okay by me because I got to have more beers. But, he got the yips, So all of those references all flow together when you're watching the show. And
I mean, how many people here said, "Don't call me Shirley"?
Right.
Right?
From Airplane.
Yes.
The only guy that says that now is Nick Shirley when he goes and he looks at a place. He says, "Don't call me Nick Shirley."
Shirley, you can't be serious. Don't call me Shirley.
The one I use all the time, which really makes people look askance at me, and when we're doing something, I say, "Oh, this was the wrong week to give up sniffing glue."
Everybody says that. That's the wrong week to quit drinking. The wrong week to quit amphetamines. I mean, it's just one of those things. Do you like gladiator movies?
Well, that you really shouldn't say.
That you shouldn't say. There's some things that you can't repeat now.
Yes, basically everything from blazing salads.
Yes,
saddles.
Red Monkey.
Yeah, blazing salads would be a great idea for a restaurant. I'm just throwing it out there that anyone who wants to make it, they could just have a salad place called Blazing Salads, and you could just come in and
okay. I'm getting you out of the salad. The reason why we're talking about
it's a word salad, Lisa.
Now, Naked Gun 2's out. It's that same kind of humor. They did Spaceballs. Spaceballs, the new one, is coming out. Like, it's all of this is coming back because it works and it was great writing.
Right. Yes, I will say this, though. However.
The writing was so great that we're repeating the lines.
But one of the things that is a problem, okay, when you're doing this is you have to ration it out a little, because then if you're doing it every 2 seconds, you become Robin Williams, and then I just go and shut the television off, okay? Because I can't stand that.
You can't do that.
No.
Nobody comes up with 20 lines in a row.
Right.
Like we're writing right now. I'm in book 2, and I just said to Jim yesterday, I need to rewrite. I know it's going to happen in editing, but there were too many references in this one conversation. Like Speranza went on for like 5 lines in a row. Like, could it be this? Could it be that? Like, she was just throwing funny lines in. And I'm like, it's not, it has to be a back and forth thing. So I know I have to edit that and we have to cut some of the jokes out. Pick my favorite one, my second favorite, and we have to dump the rest because it's too much.
Well, yes.
Because it's like sometimes, I think it was the show about the girls with the donuts. They were both waitresses and they opened up the donuts in the back or the cupcakes.
Yeah, we had 2 broke girls.
2 broke girls. I like the show, but no one lives like that. No one has every single line they say is funny.
Right.
And it's reference to something and it's from somewhere and it's back and forth. It can't be, you can't work that way. It can't, the whole script was line after line after line until line just put together.
The way it usually works is somebody's brilliant, like me, let's say, and you have all those jokes and you tell the joke, and then the other person's job is to say, "Huh?"
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's the traditional method of Abbott and Costello.
But the both of them went back and forth.
Yeah, well, that's what makes it phony. I mean,
it was just too much for me.
Right. As we discussed before, when you watch a show, you have to suspend your disbelief.
But I have to say, Bill Lawrence, if you listen to this podcast,
call us. We want you to do our show.
Yes. I've said that out loud, so I put it out in the universe. But I want to talk to you because I love the way you think.
And just like you, we'll give your wife and daughter a shot. We'll give them a role. No problem. Your wife could definitely be the co-star.
Liz, that was Liz from the...
Yes, from Shrinking.
What's her real name?
Krista Miller.
Krista Miller. See, Jim is my Wikipedia on, Jimipedia on.
Yes, and what she asked me a question, who this is, and her mother does it all the time. She comes in and doesn't give me anything to guess who it is. And 90% of the time I can guess it because I know how her mind works.
Yes, he's so smart. I love his brain.
Well, not so much. It's just they have a lot of useless information so I can reference it. And that's what you need to do if you're going to use cultural references and get people to get it. Now, sometimes, like we just watched the show with the guy from The Four of Us or whatever the hell that show was. He was in this show called Paradise.
Yes.
Right? And what they did, like 4 or 5 episodes were in Graceland, where Elvis lived. But what was interesting,
That was great.
Okay.
That was great writing. I loved it.
right? But what was quite interesting, they didn't really quite get into Elvis, who Elvis was. I mean, they did a lot of stuff about Elvis, and they used all these artifacts that were in Graceland, but they kind of said it. I guess they did, but they really used Elvis as a touchstone. And I think Elvis is famous. There's no doubt about it. But he wasn't what he was 20 years ago. So he's one of the. We were just discussing, like, the Michael Jackson movie just came out.
Yes, the biopic.
Now, certain people are over and above board the thing. Like Frank Sinatra. Let's say he was that. Then there was Elvis, then it was Michael Jackson. We don't really have anybody like that right now.
Right, like who's now? Who's
the closest
Elvis of
one
now?
is probably Taylor Swift, but
she's not Elvis.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
sorry.
she's not Elvis. So I mean, there are people that are very popular. There are people that are very popular, but not to the level of a Michael Jackson or an Elvis. That's a once in a lifetime situation. And what happens is, unfortunately, they either die young, or they burn out, or they turn into something different. Like, a good example is Eddie Murphy. Like, when Eddie Murphy came out, he was amazing. He was the best comic. He had hit movie after hit movie. Everything was amazing. And then he got older, and then he sort of petered out. And then he would come back, and then he would peter out. And then he would come back, and that's kind of the way it works.
So who is the Elvis of this time?
There isn't anybody that is that culturally dominant. I don't think right now. That
Is this why we're pulling from the past?
Yes, well, because that's what happens.
And that's what's working. Like right now, Gen X and Boomers are loving all the 80s reference stuff in the 90s because that's what they grew up on.
Right. Or even...
And it's familiar because everything goes back to when it's familiar. People like what's familiar.
Right. So now, as a history buff, as Lisa knows that I am, even in history, when they talk about something, like, for instance, if they're going to reference something about England and English people, you know who they reference all the time? Churchill, who's been 40 years ago, at least. That's the guy they talk about. They don't talk about anybody else. In France, it goes even back further to Napoleon. There's nobody you can talk about. So in the United States, who's that guy that they reference? George Washington? Not really. Thomas Jefferson? No. Abraham Lincoln? He was pretty big, but, who's the guy that's your cultural reference that when you want to talk about the United States? It's an interesting dilemma, And when you do about cultural, when you talk about music, for instance, there are so many different types of music. There's country music, there's pop, there's rock and roll. Who's the guy that's the embodiment of it? So when we go and use a cultural reference or a cultural icon, it has to be immediately recognizable, hopefully, or recognizable to enough people that it sort of makes sense. So, for instance, we did something about the Breakfast Club, the 80s movie, and we referenced that. Now, that's a little bit more obscure than some of the things that we did, like The Princess Bride that we referenced, or, other things that people would know right off the bat.
Or what was the Dirty Dancing?
Right. So people don't necessarily get it right off the bat, and that's okay. Not everything is for everybody. So hopefully.
But some of the lines are so iconic that even if you don't know where it came from, it's just funny anyway.
Right. So one of the lines Lisa used is, "Don't put baby in the corner." Right.
Now, if you didn't know it, if you're reading the book and you have no idea where it's from, in the context that I used it in the book, it's funny.
Right.
So
that's
when you know it works.
One of the quotations, they're in a cemetery, and Vesna makes a joke, and then Speranza says, "Oh, I didn't know you knew that." And Vesna says, "Well, that's how I learned English, by watching television."
Right. So she was surprised that she knew her joke.
Right. So that's kind of the thing that we were going for. And when you do a cultural, is it cultural appropriation? I think it's more of a cultural homage. You're using a line, and you're trying to hook on to that sensibility. Like, one of the things we say all the time is Chinatown, Jake. It's like something that's just the way it is. There's nothing you can change.
Right. I think they did that in Riverdale, or they use it. We've heard it in a few different.
Oh, you hear it all the time. I mean, but see, that's a very interesting one to me because that was a very prevalent one in the 70s, right?
Right.
With
And
Jack
that line
Nicholson.
can carry decades of meaning.
Right, but not everybody knows that movie or has seen it, because now that's quite obscure. And that's the funny thing, like movies that were great 20 years ago that we all know and we can quote.
Listen, 20 years ago is really 40 years ago.
Yeah.
It feels like 20 years ago, but it's 40 years ago.
Yes, that's
If we're
true.
talking about the 80s,
Yes, it's
it's
40 years
ago.
Exactly. So,
Which kind of freaks me out because it feels like 20 years ago.
right. So that's the funny part. You can't go back again, as the famous Thomas Wolfe.
Even if you do a
Can't go
line
home
from
again.
Star Wars, think about when that movie came out.
Right, but the thing about Star Wars is that's culturally relevant because kids get into it and they watch it again and again,
They
and
start
then
from the beginning.
and then the franchise continues. That's another thing about pop culture. If there's a franchise and it goes forward, it always morphs and changes. A good example, James Bond, right? James Bond has been around. When I was a kid, the first movie I ever saw was a James Bond movie.
Really?
Yes.
What
And
was it?
was unfortunate. My uncle was dating my aunt at the time. So he wanted to show that he could be a good father. I was like maybe 6.
Oh, good
So
father.
he wanted to show
Which
that he was
one did you go
he
to?
was a father he would be a wonderful father. So he said, "Oh, I'm going to take Jamesy out to the movies." So what do we do?
What
we
a
went,
maroon.
We went on Court Street, and what do we see? Goldfinger. So when I went home, I said, "Hey, Dad, when I was in the movie, they mentioned this woman's name was Pussy Galore, and everybody laughed. Why?" He said, "Ask your mother."
Nice.
So that's not quite the movie. But for instance, James Bond, Sean Connery was the ultimate James Bond. And then it had a lot of permutations over the time. And he was not at all like the books. Going back to our discussion of the last podcast, that he was not the one who was closest to the James Bond of the books was actually Roger Moore, believe it or not. So, everything changes, and morphs and changes. And if it's a franchise or an intellectual property that's got enough strength, it can continue and go on. Perfect example, Lord of the Rings, right? That's a book that everyone copies. Or not copies, that's the wrong thing to say.
It's a foundation.
Right. They reference it or they use some of the elements. So I don't know how many books have orcs and elves and dwarves and, all of that kind of stuff. And people use that as a touchstone. Recently, I've been reading a lot of books that have the same format. The person goes back in time or goes to another dimension, and he has all this knowledge maybe he has an AI implanted in his head or something, and he knows all of this stuff. So he goes back to this medieval era civilization. But what do they have? They have dwarves. They have elves. They have lizard men. They have all of this stuff that's sort of a convention in this type of story, as they do in a witch story. Like when you have a witch story, there are certain conventions.
I just don't have vampires.
Right. We don't like vampires. They suck. So we're not
They
doing any
scare me.
vampires.
I'm so over the vampire thing because of what was it, Vampire Diaries? What was it?
I have no idea. I don't like vampires either.
Okay, good.
But
So this is good.
yeah, I think.
I drank poison for you.
Well, the thing is to go back. Are we talking in circles or are we talking in a straight line?
I have no idea.
Is it the Yellow Brick Road? Is that?
That was in Matlock last night.
Yes, that was.
So the season finale, they referenced the Yellow Brick Road and Jerry Maguire, I think.
Yes, they throw out more obscure. The more obscure the reference, the better it is. But when you get it, you laugh and you say, "Oh, that's funny," So
I thought it was interesting.
Some of them become referenced so many times they're almost a cliche.
Right.
Like how many times do you see somebody reenacting the scene from Titanic? When I see people do that on the boat, I just want to go and push them off the boat. It's like, please, give me a break.
I mean, I was just going to say something, and I forgot. Oh, let's just go to Shrinking, another show that we like.
Right.
And the line, first of all, we love the music that they play.
Right.
And I feel like in the show, they're not just talking to each other, they're talking through the shared cultural language.
Right.
And they're sharing that with the audience. And we're part of that. So when they say all those lines to each other, we're included because we get it.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean,
I mean, when you do get it, you feel like, oh, like when I heard that line last night when he said, be the bold Danny, and it was just in the middle of a sentence, no explanation. They were not on a golf course. It wasn't like any other reference to Caddyshack. It was just those few words. And I got it. I felt so good. It lit me up.
right.
I
So,
was like, oh, yes, that was Caddyshack.
so
I
what?
got it.
Talking about, to go back to the original premise pop quiz on pop culture, a lot of these cultural references are an easy way, or you're hooking on to something, and you're expanding the worldview, you're expanding the experience by letting people let their knowledge of that particular quote or that particular movie inform what we're talking about. So for instance, we reference The Princess Bride a lot. That's one of the most quoted movies of all time. So
I like that it's quick throwaway references. It's just they're just throwaway.
so
Where you get it if you don't, if or we don't explain it, we don't go back and say anything about it.
so talk about the Alejandro reference.
Oh, he says, let me remember now. You just,
My name
I
is
was
Al.
going to talk about shrinking, and he totally
Well, we want to bring it back to the book.
Prepare to Die. He does.
Yes.
I don't want to give away certain parts
Lisa,
of the book.
let me explain to you why we're doing the blog. Just not the blog, the podcast. We're doing it to sell books. So I don't want to. I don't want to.
Always brings it back.
I don't want to.
Always brings it back.
I love Bill Lawrence. I love his show, but I don't need to promote him. He needs to promote me. Okay, and he needs to make our show. So please give me a call. Okay.
Yes.
We're in the book.
I know.
Or you can send us an email from our
website. There we go.
thebrooklynwitch.com.
Okay.
So, but he says, I am Alejandro. Where he says his whole name, which I don't.
He does the whole thing from Princess Bride.
Right. Prepare to die. You know, that's a very.
I don't want to give the whole thing because he doesn't say it exactly.
No.
He says it with the things that we changed for that scene.
Correct. Right. So
that's why I didn't want to say that, but we do reference Princess Bride there.
So let's go back.
We have to.
Yes, let's go back to the shrinking story.
Yes.
Because our time is shrinking right here.
Well, they do Princess Bride there, like I drink poison for you,
right.
Or, you don't get to Yoda me.
Right.
Because it's about psychiatrists, like therapy.
Right. I mean, I use lines all the time. Like in Oceanside Library, I use this line all the time. I go, this is the way. You know when I use that? When somebody asks me where the restroom is.
And then you become the Mandalorian.
Yes, I become the Mandalorian.
Which is so funny.
Right. And then I just love the Soprano line, so I use them all the time.
Oh, you know what I just thought? Listen, I Love Lucy. Nobody would get some of them, but there's so many of them that I say. But keep a jiggle in it, Peggy. If you know that line, put a comment.
Right.
In the podcast comment section. Keep a jiggle in it, Peggy.
Right. So, right. And
that's like the very obscure one. I want to see if somebody gets it.
And that's an example of one that's from an older show that you don't necessarily everyone would get. I Love Lucy is obviously from the 50s. But one of the ones from the 50s that everyone gets, believe it or not, is Who's on First. If you say Who's on First, everybody has some sort of experience. Right, has some sort of experience. Either they saw the original bit or they saw somebody ripping it off.
Mm-hmm. So I still say boxcars, Snake Eyes, from when they were playing dice, and he remembered boxcars, Snake. I was saying that as a kid.
Right. And what would happen was when I would come home from school, and at lunchtime, they always had Abbott and Costello on.
Yeah,
like
but that
12
was on
o'clock.
Sundays at 11:30 on Channel 11.
And the other thing that they did was when the Yankees had a rain out, they always put Abbott and Costello on. So if there was rain out, Phil Rizzuto would say, well, it's raining pretty hard here in Yankee Stadium, so we're going to go to Abbott and Costello and we'll be back. And then they jump right into an Abbott and Costello show.
Love it. Love, love, love. But I did love, just going back to shrinking for a second. Same writer, Bill Lawrence, great show. Actually, Jim notices if I laugh or not.
Right.
Right? How many times do I actually laugh out loud?
Not that often.
But on this show, it made me laugh out loud. There were so many things that I just couldn't take it. I just couldn't take it.
Well, what happens is we see so much.
I mean, to me, it really mirrored how real friends talk.
Right.
Because I might speak to my friend Ann. We'll do like a whole thing of Caddyshack back and forth just for fun, just because it's funny and it makes us laugh.
Right. But you have the same cultural touchstones, the same cultural references that not everybody has, unless you really do a real well-known one.
Yeah, but that's how real friends talk.
Yes, yes.
So I love that in Shrinking, they show that real friends do have this conversation where they throw lines back and forth to each other.
Right. And what you're doing in the book that you read, you're treating the reader as a real friend. So you're throwing those things at them, and hopefully they get it.
And when Ginny and Speranza, they're best friends since they were little, and they're in their 50s. So they know each other back and forth, everything about them. And they have the same type of references, and they do that little banter. And that's how real friends are.
Right.
They do always have jokes.
Right. So that's...
my friend was on the plane, and I asked her, did Frederick check the fuselage?
Right.
And she knew exactly what I was talking about
That's from the Odd Couple, yes. We do a lot of Odd Couple ones. And one of the things that's funny is that a lot of the shows...
Oh, could I just say one from Caddyshack?
Sure, of course.
There was a guy, I'm not going to say his name, but he was on the corner. They used to play chess on the corner. I walk by every day on the way to the F train, and I said to him, he was wearing this hat. And I said, you should get a free bowl of soup with that hat. But it looks good on you, though. I said it to him every single day for 2 years. And I cracked up because it was the funniest thing. He had no idea what I was talking about. And then one day he stopped me and he said, oh my God, I watched Caddyshack. Now I know what you're talking about. And he finally got the joke. Took 2 years.
Yes. Hopefully people don't have to take 2 years to get the jokes in the Brooklyn Witch. However, if you read it every day for 2 years, that would be good.
Nice.
And the new book that's going to be coming out soon.
Yes. And it has more references, of course, because that's how they work. This is their Brooklyn. This is how they were brought up. This is their culture. Callback lines, TV, film. It's just, this is how they tell the story.
The only question that I have, and I don't know how it's going to go. I just think that everybody's so culturally fractured now. It's not the same cohesion that it had when we were coming up. So there was only 4 TV channels or 7, however many there were. There was the big 3, Channel 5, Channel 11, and PBS. That was it. So you pretty much had a cultural reference, and you guys all watched the same shows, whether it was I Love Lucy or Bonanza, or whatever it was, Gunsmoke, or, ER, for instance, showing one later. Now all these streaming services, there's so many different things. When we talk in the library to people about a show, they said, oh, I don't have that. I don't have HBO, or I don't have Netflix. I haven't seen that. I don't know that. So I think it's a little fractured. So you don't necessarily have those things that you can use that everyone's going to get. It's hard to find.
My sister works in the school, so she has all the little kids, and they always pickpocket her. They're always trying to steal her phone. So she sticks her phone in her shoulder under her bra strap. And they say, they're like, where's your phone? And she goes, what hump? And they point to her shoulder. I mean, those kids are not going to get the joke.
No.
She just makes herself laugh.
Right.
Because sometimes you have to make yourself laugh in life. Even if no one gets the joke.
If you
make yourself chuckle, it kind of lightens your spirit a little bit.
Sometimes you have to laugh or you're going to cry.
Correct.
So that happens to me a lot when I'm with a bunch of people that are really dull and not interesting, and I have to tell jokes to myself and laugh.
Or you just whisper them to me.
It's a secret. That's what one of Lisa's friends, just not to say that. The old friends, not the new ones from the library. They're pretty smart.
Nice.
Anyway, I could say that because none of them listen to the podcast.
Nice. I just like that I make the characters in the book, they call out each other using references.
Right.
I mean, that's fun, right? And sometimes they deflect serious feelings with humor. I mean, that is a big part.
Yes. And
when I'm scared, I make jokes and I deflect, serious feelings with humor. I do that.
Right. And she used a lot of references, like musical references, right? You could give an example of
Put
that.
me in a haunted house, and you will hear every joke from every movie, every commercial, everything.
Yes.
Because they'll just start falling out of my mouth if you put me in a scary
Yes,
situation.
I remember when we visited the corn maze. It was quite the thing. I was telling corn jokes, and Lisa was telling.
I said everything. It just all came out. I think I even referenced the big rabbit guy, the
Harvey. Yep.
Buddy a bow tie.
Yes. And that's
See, it's not Buddy a bow tie. See, that's an example. It's Buddy your necktie. But I don't like the way that rolls off my tongue.
Right.
Buddy your bow tie, you could put more emphasis on the B's.
Right. So it came out better, but which is okay. It's how
That's
you.
an example how put the candle back instead of the candlestick.
Well, it's how you remember it, not how it was said necessarily.
And it doesn't really matter. If that's how you remember it and it makes you laugh, you'll get nothing and like it.
Right.
That's a good one.
Yeah, like when Jerry Maguire says, "Show me the Bitcoin." It's it's updated for current sensibility. Right.
I mean, I don't want to get started with Caddyshack because I'll start just throwing lines out. Like Jerky Boys. I mean, that's drives me crazy.
Yeah, Lisa jumped out of a chair when the guy mentioned Jerky Boys in the show list.
Ted Lasso, he mentioned Jerky Boys. I was like, are you kidding me?
Yes. So that's why I tell her all the time when she said, "Did I bring everything?" I said, "Did you bring your shoes and glasses?"
We say that all the time.
Yes.
And people don't know what we're talking about.
No, Jerky Boys were these two guys that did prank calls.
Let me just explain. We sat in a car listening to a mixtape of prank calls, whatever you want to call it. Because I get mixed up. It's prank call. I call it prank calls, but then Crank Yankers was calling it crank calls.
Yes.
That other show that came out.
Right.
But should I bring all my shoes and I'll sue you too.
Right.
I fell down the stairs and my shoes fell off.
So what happens is when you have...
My name is Frank Rizzo. I got to stop because I know all of them.
Right. Well, that's what Lisa did a lot in the book, so hopefully you'll recognize a lot of the references that she used, and it adds a little texture to it. It adds a little something extra. It's like the extra oregano in the sauce, it's giving a little spice to it. So hopefully that's something that adds value to the book. Now, pop quiz about pop culture. What do you think is the most quoted line in Brooklyn Witch? It's probably Caddyshack, I guess, right? Or Princess Bride, either one.
Yeah, Princess Bride is pretty up there. What would be Dirty Dancing?
Yeah,
That's pretty big.
I guess. But
everybody knows "Don't Put Baby in the Corner."
No, but as far as the volume of the number of callbacks, I think we did Wizard of Oz callbacks. There was quite a few of those because it's witches. So naturally,
we referenced Godfather. We referenced other things too.
Right. Well, the mafia ones are going to be much more prevalent in the second book, so there'll be a lot of different quotations or callbacks to that. And the thing is that because I'm such a big fan, a lot of them to me, one that Lisa uses all the time is very obscure. And I think she says this once a day.
I do?
Yes. She said, "They took my thumbs, Charlie."
Come on, that's classic.
Yes.
That's classic.
And that's from a very obscure movie, Mean Streets.
I said that recently to somebody, and they just looked at me like, "What are you talking about?"
Yes.
And I'm like, "They took my thumbs, Charlie."
If she says that every day, it's pretty close. And I always
sometimes it feels like my life.
And the two things I say all the time are, have we learned nothing from Richie Aprile? And the second is it's a good thing your book doesn't mean who gots to me. As the famous Cheech Lamana said to Paulie Walnuts.
That up a little bit too.
Yes, a little bit. So, and then it's always good to throw in a phrase from a different language and people have no idea what you're saying.
Bugs Bunny comes up in my life, hiding in the stove, eh? Or how many times do I say, "So, I heard monsters live very interesting lives."
Yes.
But I switch it to other things.
Lisa loves Bugs Bunny, so she quotes that all the time.
And you switch out what he says to something else, and it just works.
Well, that's what happens. Scenarios. It's always scenarios with you. You know what I mean? Another Soprano one.
I mean, just as a some nostalgia driven, talk about Stranger Things for 1 minute. What they did on that show, they referenced like all their exam. It's their almost the entire show is built on references to classic 70s and 80s, right? So they Ghostbusters, E.T., The Shining, Carrie, Poltergeist, Stand By Me, A Nightmare on Elm Street, The Goonies, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Everything's referenced there.
Well, it was like sort of like a
They
cultural
kind
blend.
of recreated the feeling of all of them, and that I just feel old is good. The old stuff is good. The furniture that's, old antique furniture, you want to fix it up, it's better than the one you're going to buy now.
Right.
Like
Well,
the old stuff is the best.
yes, but the problem.
I sound like I'm an 80-year-old man standing on my lawn. Help me.
Here's the thing. The cultural references are great if people get them, but you can depend on them too much, and you can also make a mistake and
Well, I
use
think
a.
Stranger Things did that.
You can right. You can use a culture. You can use a cultural overuse it, or use one that was big back in the day and now is very obscure. I'll give you an example. Rosebud. Do you know what Rosebud was from?
Is that a horse?
No.
Okay.
Yes, it was the horse Patrick Swayze rode in Red Monkey.
Yes.
Well, Rosebud is one of those lines that's one of the most famous lines in all of the history of movies, from the movie that is often quoted as the best movie of all time, which I don't think is so. But they think that that's the greatest movie of all time. And that's Citizen Kane. And Rosebud was the name of the sled that Charles Foster Kane loved. So at the end of the movie, he says Rosebud. And that everybody uses that as a quote. Mm-hmm. Now, another one is Here's Looking at You, Humphrey Bogart and Casablanca. Those are all classics. Those are almost a cliche. And it's hard to strike the line between what's a cliche and what's relevant and fun. You can start quoting things and then they become a cliche. And it's like, really? How many times am I going to see this? I don't really enjoy that too much because it's been used to death, But I was just using Rosebud as an example of something that people 20 years ago or 40 years ago, as Lisa pointed out, people would get that, which they're not going to get now. And I think it's just Chinatown, Jake, is one of those things. It's verging in on the territory where a lot of those kids today aren't going to get it. They don't know what you're talking about.
But I did want to point
when
out.
When you say it's Chinatown, and you say, no, it's not a Stop and Shop.
Right.
We're in Stop and Shop. It's not Chinatown.
I just liked the way Shrinking reference things, and it wasn't always like they said, like one of the lines was, this is some great Grey's Anatomy level drama,
right?
Like they referenced another television show,
right? Now sometimes people
just to exaggerate,
but sometimes people say that that's navel gazing. You're looking at something and you're too into that type of pop culture.
They use it too.
Yeah, right.
But they did it
seamlessly.
Throwaway lines, and it's seamless in the dialogue.
Right.
It's not like where they stop and they're going to reference the television show now. It's just like so easy in the conversation.
And they don't stop and say, hey, I'm going to say something funny. Pay attention.
Right.
That's annoying when that happens. You just want to see something and it's got to flow naturally, which, most of the times it does. Certainly in the Brooklyn Witch when Lisa puts those cultural references and the cultural archetypes like Michael Jackson or Edward G. Robinson or Courageous Cat and Froggy. It all depends on what you're looking at and what you're thinking. So it gets corrupted over time, I guess. And
like anything else.
Right. So
I just feel like it's hot now.
Well, yes, that's true.
And because of these revivals.
Now, I think a lot of people might not like that too. I mean, a lot of people don't like wordplay, or they ignore. You have to. It's really difficult. You have to insert it, so it's fun for the people to get it.
Not everyone's going to love Ted Lasso.
No, but you have to make it fun so people will get it, but also make it enough fun that if they don't get it, they're not put off by it.
And it's still funny.
Right. You're not the references. If they're referencing something, I'll give you an example. The Orville, right? That's a TV show with Seth, whatever his name is, from Family Guy. He made
like a sci-fi show,
right? But he was doing a direct copy of Star Trek.
Yes.
And what he was doing was he was trying to use the motif and the cliches or the way they do things on Star Trek in the show, and
It was a sci-fi trope.
right,
in general.
he flipped it a little, but he basically, if you were familiar with Star Trek, you would know what that was about, you know. And that happens with the Lord of the Rings, as we were saying. Like a lot of times, the people that watched, for instance, Game of Thrones, they viewed it with the idea the Lord of the Rings had already come out, so they sort of looked at it in the context of the Lord of the Rings, you know. And it was similar but different. They didn't have dwarves or elves in Game of Thrones, but they had the same medieval mindset. So when Lisa wrote the book, she had to be mindful of that. She had to put in enough for people to get the joke, but also make it interesting enough so people would continue reading. And if they didn't get the joke, they weren't thrown off, you know.
Right.
So you
and I didn't explain the joke.
Right. And you couldn't do 20 minutes of back and forth of Caddyshack references, which she just spoke about in the chapter that she's writing. She has to go back and edit it. That's one of the key things in editing.
I mean, you throw it all out when you're writing. You just like get it out of you, get it out of your head, all the lines, whatever you want to say in the dialogue. The editing part is when you go back and say, all right, this is too much. Let's clean this up. You know, that's a lot of work fixing that part.
Well, yeah, and you want to make sure it makes sense and there's continuity, as we had said in the past.
Is it playful enough? Is it layered enough? You really...
Is there enough action? Is it too static? Is it too wordy? They're just talking, or, you know, you have to throw a little bit of action in every chapter or two. You shouldn't go 3 chapters with them just talking, because then people are going to say,
right.
What do I need this for? You know, you want to have a little bit of action and movement. Now, that goes back to our previous podcast about plot and pretension.
Mm-hmm.
Pretentious books, which I call pretentious books, which I'm sure people are going to be angry at, but I don't care. It's all dialogue and verbiage and deep thinking, and it's so wonderful that they talked about this, and it's like, no, it's boring. You know, you want to have action. Now, is that because I was conditioned by television? And yes, I think that's probably true. Absolutely.
Conditioned? Well, I mean, I'm a walking commercial.
Right. But that's who we are.
When Bill called, did Bill call? Like, if you know it, you know it. That's
right.
Like right now there's a meme, if you know, you know. I feel like there's a lot of that in television right now. If you know, you know.
Right. And in movies too, but movies suck now, so you don't watch them. But what happens is you have to integrate this within the framework of your story to make it fun, add value, but not make it so omnipresent that it overwhelms what you're doing. And Lisa did a great job in that. And The Brooklyn Witch was available on Amazon.com.
Go
or
to
from our website.
brooklynwitch.com. You could choose where you want to buy it from. If you want a hand signed copy, you get it from thebrooklynwitch.com, or from there, there's links out to everywhere it's available.
And one of the things I want to talk about briefly is reviews. If you read the book, if you had the book, please write a review. It's very important. Amazon,
it helps with the algorithm.
And Amazon is very touchy about reviews. So there's a lot of sites and people that offer, you review my book, I'll review book. We don't do any of that. We just want real, honest reviews.
If you look on Amazon, you could read about what other people wrote.
Right. And then and it doesn't have to be crazy 25 paragraphs.
2 lines, 3 lines, the most.
Maybe a little bit more than that. But
all right.
It's okay. I mean, I'm a notorious reviewer. I review books all the time.
All right, Rabbit.
I review books all the time because I read a lot, and some of them are a little bit more obscure. People don't have them, but I love to review a book and give my own thoughts on it. And hopefully you could do that for The Brooklyn Witch. Also, on our podcast, if you like it, suggest something else you'd like us to talk about, or give us a little feedback.
The comments. Put some things in the comments. Like the podcast. Follow us on Spotify.
Right. Tell your friends and neighbors. Go knock on your neighbor's door next door and say, I know that my air conditioner is very loud, but if you want to make it so you don't hear it, listen to Lisa and Jim's podcast and put it really loud, and you won't hear the air conditioner anymore.
Put the headphones on.
How about that? So
very good.
Okay. So we want you to enjoy it. We're doing this because you know the book and the podcast, you know what it's about? What's it about, Lisa?
Selling books.
Well, that, but also...
Well, I gave you the Jim answer.
Right, that's the Jim's answer. But it's also about fun. It's fun.
That's my answer.
Yes. Well, we reverse roles. It's like
what happened? It's like trading places.
Yeah, not trading places. What's the other one where the daughter becomes the mother and the mother becomes the daughter? What's that? Freaky Friday. It's Freaky Friday. It's Friday. Look at that.
Places.
We always do our podcast on Friday afternoon, so it's Freaky Friday
It
afternoon.
is Freaky Friday. Okay. I just want to say the best stories don't stand alone; they echo.
Wow, very profound.
You like that? So, and when we recognize the echo, we feel like we're part of something bigger.
Or you fell down the well, and Lassie's going to come and say, woof, woof, woof. What, Lassie? Lisa fell down the well?
I don't know where to go with that.
What? That's a quote from Lassie.
I know, but I don't know where to go with that.
I say that all the time.
I want to say Shane.
So that's really funny because Lisa has no idea. She's never watched the movie Shane. She has no idea. She knows
I watched it. The kid was crying, and he said Shane 100 times. I shut it off.
But you know why the kid was crying? Because Old Yeller died. And the movie he did before that. So he's still crying about that.
I'm going to be a goldfish.
Yes.
And forget about
it. That's Ted Lasso.
And forget about it.
Right. Yes, we talk about goldfish because I knew growing up, we always went to the feast, and what did we always get? We always got a Zapala, and we got a goldfish that we won by throwing a ping pong ball in the little tank or bottle, whatever, glass thing. They had a bunch of glass things, and you threw bowls. Yeah, there you go. You threw it in a bowl, and all of a sudden you won a goldfish. And what they do, they put it in water in a plastic bag, and you brought it home. And you put it in your mother's macaroni pot, and by the next day when you woke up, it was dead. It taught you a useful lesson about life. Kids have to learn that. Kids today don't learn that.
The world needs ditch ditches too.
Yeah, the world needs dead goldfish so kids can understand about death and flushing it down the toilet.
So I got that going for me.
Yes, you do.
Which is nice. It's in the hole. It's in the hole. I think we're done.
You think?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it was.
I'm going to start saying a lot of things from Caddyshack now.
Really? Okay, just blurt out a couple, and I'll do some soprano ones.
Now I can't think of any.
Scenarios. It's always the scenarios with you.
I know. Anyway, doesn't matter. And put one of your favorites.
One of my favorites? Mm-hmm. Oh,
I like hiding in the stove, eh?
One of my favorites I often think about, and sometimes people even say it to me.
Oh, I say it at the baseball game. I do say, I'm an umpire, I'm a bat.
Yes.
I'm an umpire, I'm a bat.
One of my favorites is from The Quiet Man, which I say all the time, which people say to me often when they see mine and Lisa and our interaction. They say to me, here's this fine stick to beat the lovely lady.
Thank you.
Which I would never do.
No, we wouldn't.
But
all right.
Only metaphorically. That's The Quiet Man is another one that I use a lot of quotes from,
Open sesame.
Open sesame.
Open sarsaparilla?
What's the one about the eyes that you do with Bugs Bunny?
Tell me more about my eyes, would you? Huh?
Yes. So those are some of the lines. And maybe if you want to write a comment, tell us some of your favorite lines of movies and books or whatever, and maybe we'll incorporate it in the next book. We're also looking for characters, and if we know you, if you come up to us, you might even become a character in a book. Who knows? It's very possible.
Very possible.
We can use you as the next victim.
Well, that's us signing out, saying, have a great day. It's not Red Monkey.
And happy trails to you.
Happy trails to you. I love that.
As Roy Rogers would say. And we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
See ya.